Good morning. Here we are, another episode of me talking arse. Episode 3 of Old Man Walking Around with a Phone on a Stick. Want a career in art? Careers in the art world? Tell me your secrets. Judging by the comments and the things I get asked for, people think artists are absolutely minted. If you want to cut out this whole video and just get to the end, then essentially they're not. For 20 years, I was not making money from art. I was making art, but what I was making was not fashionable. And it does boil down to that, because essentially a lot of the work I was making in the last century, bloody hell, is of the same subject and stylistically probably very similar, though I was younger, to the work I make now. Advice for students, because they ask me, how did you make a successful career? And the short answer is luck and circumstance. Do you want the whole story? I grew up in a small village that was next door to a very small town, as I've said before, in a culturally inconsequential part of Britain. When I was first thinking I'd like to do this as a job, there were 3 towns that surrounded where I lived. There was Bath, Bristol and Wells, which would kind of get lumped in with Glastonbury and that sort of area. As I was growing up in Bristol, there was a museum and art gallery. There was the Arnold Feeney, and commercial galleries, they were pretty sparse. I think I can remember 2, and one of them was far too commercial. I was going to say fluffy, far too commercial to be even interested in my work. Other private galleries in Bath, 2 that immediately come to mind, and then a 3rd appeared. There was one street in Bath, York Street, and it had a gallery called Beaux-Arts. I think it's still there now. They were a good gallery. They were my main gallerists to annoy. And I would regularly go in there, look at the work, and I discovered some other interesting artists there. That's where I discovered Elizabeth Frink. That's where I discovered a lot of the Cornish abstract artist Ray Richardson, who has since become a good friend. Same age as me, good painter, check him out. And I would go in there every now and then, have a look around. And Reg, who used to run the joint, sometimes he'd give me a free postcard and catalogue of whatever show was on. You could see I was interested. And one day I had the courage to ask him, would you be interested in seeing my work? We had a chat about what I did. And he said, yeah, bring it in. You know, we're talking very end of the 80s, early 90s. He'd look at the work, I'd leave it with him, and he'd be polite and say, it's not really for us. I think, okay, cool. But it was polite, you had a look, that's nice. Didn't stop me going in there, and I would learn from the other art that was in there. There was a gallery over the road. They were polite, but they didn't want to look at my work. Okay. There was another gallery that was in a square in Bath. I remember you used to have to ring the bell or knock on the door to get in. It wouldn't just open door. In fact, one time I walked up to the door to go in to have a look. I think they had an exhibition of Rodin associated drawings in there. And I had me 1980s sticky up blue hair and scabby ass clothes. They saw me up, and as I approached, the sign went up on the door, closed. And they walked away, and I thought, all right, fair enough, I can take a hint. So no, they were, just by the fact I think that they were dealing with Rodin sculptures in some regards, I thought, nah, that's not my league. That was it. Other galleries turned up later on and disappeared. So it was a pretty minimal amount of options, but still I would continue. Anyway, I carried on doing what I was doing. I had various jobs to keep the wolf from the door. Still I, laboured under this. I was patient. I just stayed there. Bode my time and waited for the prey. But it never happened. But still, under this misguided delusion, deranged optimism that it would happen, I continued. Then all the Banksy stuff kicked off, and I was following it, because it was, political, and it was interesting and funny at the time. And two things happened at the same time. Because I was heavily involved with the trade union at the hospital I worked in, I went to a union conference. Was it at Brighton? Yes, it was at Brighton, I think. While I was there, I contacted an artist friend. I said, look, I'm in town. Can we meet up? He said, yeah, that'd be cool. Have a beer. So we met up with him. Had a nice day and afternoon and putting the world to rights as you do. And he went his way, I went mine. Now, that weekend, that artist had an exhibition. This exhibition was his last exhibition before he was picked up by the Banksy supporting gallery in London. And all those that were involved in following the street art thing at the time, were following who was being picked up, who was turning up in this gallery in this new frenzied environment of buying the new latest thing. But this was his last exhibition before he fell fully under their wing. And at that exhibition, another gallerist who didn't know that he'd been taken on went up to him and said, would you be interested in working with me? And he said, nah, that's sorry, I can't. But obviously, because I was fresh in his mind, because we'd just had a chat and a beer, he said, but have you heard of this artist, Guy Denning? So he gave this gallerist my name, and this gallerist liked the work, and the gallerist contacted me, and he could see a connection between my political painting and some of the work that was being picked up in urban art land before the phrase urban art even fucking turned up. And this gallerist, who was my first gallerist, was a very, very good publicist. His enthusiasm, if he liked an artist's work, if he was enthusiastic for it, he would push it to the end. This gallerist pushed my work. He came up, he said, would you be interested in a show? And he said, can we come up and have a look at some work? So he came up to the house, him and his wife. So we arranged a show. Because of the frenzy of the urban art thing that had taken off, he was telling me, oh, we lined it up on the walls in the gallery and we've sold a lot of it already. That was a surprise. And it all just fell into place. My first show, which was at the peak of this urban art phenomenon in the UK, was nearly sold out. People who'd missed out at that show that were contacting friends and contacting through the website I had, they wanted to buy everything. Rough sketches, it all went a bit crazy. And after 20 years of just, struggling to get exhibitions, let alone sell work, it was very strange. I'll give some more advice on this front. If any artists, young, middling, whatever, want it, let me know. It all boils down to, I'm afraid, much like the rest of the world, do you have contacts? Do you have your own money? Do you have family money? Do you know anybody famous? Do you know anybody in the art world? Do I think it's wrong? Yeah, I think it's wrong. Will it ever change? No. The people who have control, the people that benefit from that system, they consider it normal. If you're here because, I don't know, the algorithm dug through the wordage here and plumbed up the fact there's advice for artists. If you're here for the advice, if you want more, I'll dish it out in a few more videos, if you like. But this is a cliche, but as the cliche of lines about cliche go, it's a cliche because it's true. If you make art or if you're creative, think about why you're doing it. If you're not being financially rewarded for it, does it change your relationship to it? I can number the close artist friends of mine who are extremely wealthy through their artwork. I can number them on the thumbs of one hand, and I know quite a few artists. I know good musicians, I know good writers, I know filmmakers, but not all are subject to the benefit of the luck that I have been grateful to receive. So the important thing is, why do you do it? Do you do it because you just have to do it? Is it something that's part of you? I know it's a cliche. It's a cliche because it's true. I've always said, if I never sold another painting or drawing, would I stop making this stuff? No. Why? I don't know. It's something I just have to do. It's something that's a comfort. It's something that's an escape. Anyway, should we stop there? Lots of subjects for other doings. Take care. That'll do for now. Ta-ta.